I talk to you?
You bet, Logan. What's up?
I want to tell you something that God just told me.
Okay.
Last night, my dad was roping this calf. And this calf had been born from a really old cow. She didn't have really the greatest milk. She didn't have, like, the vitamin C and stuff.
Okay.
Hold on. Mom?
So cute, I guess his mom's talking to him.
I'm talking right now. I'll be up in a second. But, sorry about that. But anyway, she broke her back. And this morning I went out and put her down myself. I was talking to God. I was asking God why she was special. And God said, you know, Logan, my son was special, but he died for a purpose. It's kind of the same thing. That calf was close to me, and God's son was close to him.
Logan, you're so right. It's true. Think you're gonna be okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine. But I wanted to tell you guys that is so important. Just remember, when you lose a loved one or a pet, always remember that God gave his son too, and he understands. He will always understand. He will always just run to him.
Logan, you're wiser than you know, buddy.
Oh, sometimes I don't think I'm wise. Trust me, I've done a lot of stupid stuff. But I've learned from it.
Yeah, but see, buddy, that's what makes you wise. Somebody that learns from their mistakes.
Oh, I just figured I'd better call and share with you guys. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The time where I saw God perform a miracle. So I used to work as an EMT, and I was actually a basic EMT in the time. I guess I was in training, and so I was working with a paramedic. And so we were sitting in the station, and next thing you know, tones dropped. And so dispatch toned us out to I think it was a 2-year-old little girl. She might have been like a year and like 4 months, something like that. She was really tiny. And dispatch said that she wasn't breathing. So we jump in the truck, we book it, we got there in just a few minutes. And once we get on scene, we actually see the mom carrying this limp child out in her arms. And it's a very scary scene, naturally, right? And so for both us and for the family. And so we grabbed this child and we put her on the stretcher, and very quickly we recognized that she's got a brain bleed. She's got a soft spot on the back of her head. And so we're trying to get vitals. We're struggling to get vitals. Can't even get a good blood pressure, can't even read a blood pressure. We finally get a pulse. We know that this is something we can't do in the back of a truck. Obviously they need surgery, so we call in a helicopter. And so we actually go to a nearby church parking lot for this helicopter to land. And so the helicopter takes about 15 minutes, and so maybe even 20. And so we're in this parking lot, and we're trying to do everything we can. We're trying to get vitals, and the only thing we can really get is a pulse, and so, or a heart rate. And so if you know anything about medicine, and this has been a while, this has been a few years, and so I'm out of medicine, so forgive my language. It's probably, and by language I mean my incompetence. But what I do remember is this. When it comes to injuries, especially when you're losing blood, because like I said, they had a brain bleed. Oh, fun fact, they're also a hemophiliac, and so that means they're free bleeders, which means their blood can't clot, so nothing's going to stop that brain bleed naturally. They need intervention, and so keep that in mind. And so we can't even get IV sticks in her, so we can't even do anything at all. And so anyways, when it comes to injuries with blood loss, there's compensative shock, then there's decompensative shock. But in kids, they compensate really well. So, and by compensate, I mean like their heart rate will increase to counteract the loss of blood, right? And so they compensate really well, but when they go into decompensative shock, especially in kids, it means they're almost on their way out. And so like they're about to pass, kind of thing. And so we're monitoring her heart rate, and it's really high, which is expected. And then all of a sudden it drops really fast, and we know what's happening. And so at this point, I look at the paramedic. There's nothing we can do. We've done everything we can medicinally until the helicopter gets there. So I got to pray. And so here's what happens. I put my hand on her. I kid you not, which by the way, she's unconscious, brain bleed. And so I kid you not, as soon as I say amen, heart rate shot back up, helicopter gets there. Long story short, or maybe anyways, gets in the helicopter, makes it to surgery, makes it through surgery, lives. Great story, miraculous. Nobody I've talked to can explain it. It's just how it is. That's just how God works. So God still works miracles. There's nothing that I did that caused that. That was all God. Godspeed. Let me tell you about a time where...
What are you grateful for? People often ask me, Jimmy, how are you so positive after everything that happened to you? But the reason I'm so positive is because of everything that's happened to me. Now, I'm not saying I'm happy that I had a skiing accident that left me with a spinal cord injury and paralyzed from here down. To be honest, that kind of sucked, and I could have done without that. I'm talking about everything else that's happened to me, because my life is so much more than the 15 seconds it took for me to become paralyzed. There are so many good things about my life. I have amazing friends, family, I have a kitchen full of food, I have a roof over my head, and I live in a country where I've never feared for my life. And I could truly go on and on about all the good things in my life. And when I had my accident, when my entire life changed in a moment, most of those good things didn't change. When I was laying in hospital and thinking about everything I lost that day, my legs, control and sensation of half my body, when I compared it to everything I had left, my arms, my brain, my life, when I crunched those numbers, I was still well and truly in the green. Even though something pretty bad knocked me off my feet, I refused to let that single moment change the way I see or approach my life. Before my accident, I was really conscious of how awesome my life was, and I tried to be really intentional about noticing all the little things that make my life so good and not taking them for granted. So when I had my accident, this huge life-altering event, I had perspective, and a good perspective. So I was able to look at the situation and go, well, oopsie, but I think we can still work with this. It's a lot easier to get through the bad stuff that happens in life when you're already aware of the really good stuff. When it feels like your world is caving in or your life is turned completely upside down. When you can view it through the context of your entire life instead of just that single moment, it's a lot easier to get through it. Now, important, I am not saying that you should just ignore the bad stuff and just be happy, Don't be sad, just get over it. That is horrible, useless advice because bad stuff happens and pretending it didn't happen or ignoring it can be really unhealthy. It is okay to be down, and believe me, I still get down. But you need to be able to work through that in a healthy way, because I think life is way too short to stay down. It's not always going to be a case of just picking yourself up and getting on with it. Working through trauma or the bad thing that happened to you usually isn't an overnight process, and a lot of the time you're going to need help from others, whether that's from loved ones or a psychologist, and that's okay. What I am trying to say is when you mindfully sit down and survey your life and you recognize all the good things about it, when that bad stuff happens, you'll be able to put it in perspective and then you bounce back a whole lot quicker. And that is resilience. But it's not something you just get overnight. You got to work on it as you go. So start now and think about it. What are you grateful for?